Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. In what is being referred as country's biggest achievement till date since the pandemic outbreak, India is inoculating around 6 million people every day now. Since the launch of the new phase, when country jabbed nearly 9 million people on day one, India's vaccination drive has picked a fresh momentum and has been able to stabilize the situation against a rapidly mutating coronavirus.
Nearly 9 million people were inoculated with COVID-19 jabs as India kicked off its free inoculation drive for all adults on 21st June. The share of doses, the government said, has risen sharply in the rural areas as the drive represented a record twofold jump. The government has also changed the reservation protocol to get a slot for vaccination. It will not just be online anymore, and walk-in centres have also been opened across the country to ramp up the pace of the drive.
इक्कीस जून को भारत ने एक ऐतिहासिक माइलस्टोन अचीव किया। पूरे दिन में 88,09,000 कोविड-19 वैक्सीन की डोजेज एडमिनिस्टर की गई।
This comes after the federal government reversed a policy for individual states and hospitals to buy vaccines for those aged 18 to 44. Earlier this month, Prime Minister Modi had said that the federal government will be providing free vaccines to all in the category of 18 to 44.
21 जून सोमवार से देश के हर राज्य में 18 वर्ष से ऊपर की उम्र के सभी नागरिकों के लिए भारत सरकार राज्यों को मुफ्त वैक्सीन मुहैया कराएगी।
Meanwhile, the recreation facilities and markets have received a further relaxation with the drop in the daily infection rate. From the first week of May, when the country recorded over 400,000 cases for successive days, the weekly caseload of the country has come down to 50,000. However, a fresh variant, the Delta variant, which has further mutated to Delta Plus, has sent a word of caution to the government, and it has been declared a variant of concern in the country. Although the current number of cases of Delta Plus variant is in few dozens, the situation could grow out of hands in few weeks, the government has warned. Experts opine if India doesn't want to re-witness the havoc it saw in April and May during the peak of the second wave, it must impose a strict COVID-compliant environment. Vaccination, they say, continues to remain the most effective weapon in prevention and against spread of the disease.
Moving on. The Baloch National Movement held protests in the United Kingdom highlighting human rights violations and Pakistan's inhuman state policy of enforced disappearances. The supporters of the pro-freedom party raised concern over rising cases of extra-judicial killings and abductions of Baloch people and urged the international community to intervene. Baloch say their territory has been illegally occupied by Pakistan and they have been demanding freedom from its clutches ever since it was formed.
The Baloch National Movement UK staged a protest in London over the past weekend against the targeting of families of political and social activists in Balochistan by the Pakistan Army and intelligence agencies. They gathered in front of British Prime Minister's residence in London to highlight the rising cases of enforced disappearances in Balochistan and 12 years of the enforced disappearance of activist Dr. Deen Mohammed Baloch. They demanded the immediate withdrawal of the occupying forces from the region while urging the international community to intervene.
I was there, I was working under his leadership, and all of a sudden a news broke, Din Mohammad Baloch has been abducted. He was taken away from his hospital. He was performing his medical duty when the fascist army of Pakistan broke out and they picked him up. And since then, no one has heard a single word about him. Similarly, Zakir Majid Baloch, a student leader, he is missing for 12 long years. Ramzan Baloch, another member of Baloch National Movement, missing for over a decade. Ghafoor Baloch, missing for the same time period. And then this policy of kill and dump or the abduction and forced disappearances did not stop.
Pakistan's dubious designs of cracking down on Baloch dissent, or for that matter, any dissent, involves arresting activists on trumped-up charges and subjecting them to inhuman torture in detention centers. They are imprisoned incommunicado for an indefinite period of time. On most occasions, they never return home. There have been over 50,000 cases of disappearances in Balochistan so far. The barbarity has only gained strength with time as the establishment-backed goons attack innocents with impunity. Sindhis too, who have been enduring the state atrocities, joined in the demonstration in solidarity and urged Pakistan Authority to immediately release activists who have been abducted.
ये जो हरासमेंट की पॉलिसी है, ये जो डिसअपीयरेंस की पॉलिसी है पाकिस्तानी रियासत की तरफ से, ये बलोचों के ख़िलाफ़ एक सोची समझी साजिश है। इन्होंने कंप्लीट जो सीनियर एलिमेंट्स हैं, पढ़े लिखे जो बलोच हैं, जो उनके ब्रेन्स हैं, उनको उन्होंने डिसअपीयर किया है। और डॉक्टरों को दीन मोहम्मद के हवाले से जो ये आज का प्रोग्राम है, उसको 12 साल हो गए हैं और अभी तक जो है वो लापता है। और हज़ारों के तादाद में जो है लोग जो हैं वो डिसअपीयर होते हैं और म्यूटिलेटेड उनकी बॉडीज़ फेंकी जाती हैं।
Islamabad's modus operandi has been to muzzle the voice of dissent permanently. It never pursued a legal or democratic process in any case to counter what the dissenters said. While some say the country's leadership has been baffled by an everyday decline in its reputation owing to exposures done by the activists, others believe that it is China that is controlling and directing Pakistan's actions. It doesn't want to see a politically unstable Pakistan where it is investing over $65 billion.
Moving on. A month after Singapore-based cargo ship Express Pearl caught fire off Sri Lankan coast and sank off, a multi-layered investigation has been launched to determine the exact amount of damages caused by around 1,500 burnt containers and tons of nitric acid that the ship was laden with. Recently, experts from the United Nations Environment Programme met with country's officials and visited coastal areas to take stock of the situation. A growing number of animal carcasses at shores have only compounded the fears of a massive oil leak.
Carcasses of marine animals, an expanding heap of non-biodegradable plastic and other harmful substances off Sri Lankan coastline near the place where the Express Pearl shipwreck had drowned a few weeks back has left the government and the observers worried. While an official confirmation is still awaited, experts who have already called this incident the biggest man-made environmental disaster are assuming it to be a clear case of an oil spill. Experts from the United Nations Environment Programme recently travelled to the site and met Sri Lankan authorities. While the government of Sri Lanka has already assigned the Ministry of Wildlife the task of evaluating a large number of deceased turtle in the vicinity, The UN team said the large portion of the chemicals present at the ship was burned and didn't spill into water.
ඕන් විශේෂයෙන් පෙන්වා දෙන කාරණා තුනක් තිබෙනවා. පළවෙනි කාරණය තමයි ඕන් කියනවා දැන් මේ නැවේ තිබිච්ච රසායනික ද්‍රව්‍ය වලින් නම් වැඩි හරියක් මේ වෙන විට ගිනිගෙන වායුවට එකතු වෙලා තියෙනවා විය හැකි.
As of Friday, over 100 turtle carcasses have been found, with many bearing signs of throat and shell damage. Autopsy of over 12 dolphins is also underway. The nation's Ministry of Justice is conducting a separate investigation into the circumstances of the sinking, and it has set up 5 subcommittees to follow the threads, one each for questions of insurance, fisheries, environment, economy, and legal matters. It has already filed an initial claim for $40 million against Express Pearl's owner for the initial firefighting response, not including damages related to the sinking or the pollution that followed.
දෙවෙනි කාරණය ඔවුන් කියනවා මේ පබළු මේ නැවේ තිබුණා කන්ටේනර් 87ක් ප්ලාස්ටික් පබළු ඒ කියන්නේ ප්ලාස්ටික් පොලිතීන් වැනි දේවල් සෑදීම සඳහා අමුද්‍රව්‍ය වශයෙන් භාවිතා කරන මෙන්න මේවා විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් ගොඩබිමට ගසාගෙන ආවා. මේක ඔවුන් කියනවා ලෝකයේ මෙතෙක් සිද්ධ වෙච්ච විශාලතම ප්ලාස්ටික් අපද්‍රව්‍ය වෙරළට එකතු වීමේ අවස්ථාව කියලා. මීට පෙර එවැනි සිද්ධියක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ තව රටවල් දෙක තුනක වෙලා තිබුණත් මෙතරම් විශාල ප්‍රමාණයක් මුහුදට එකතු වෙලා නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේ පුංචි ලංකාවට බරපතල තත්යකට තමයි මුහුණ දෙන්න වෙලා තිබෙන්නේ. මේ කන්ටේනර් 87න් කොටසක් ගිනි ගන්නට ඇති, කොටසක් මුහුදට විසිවෙන්නට ඇති, කොටසක් මුහුද යට තැම්පත් වී තිබෙනවා ඇති, කොටසක් තමයි දැන් වෙරළට ගසාගෙන ඇවිල්ලා තිබෙන්නේ. ඔවුන්ගේ මතය අනුව උන් ඉදිනවා සාමාන්‍යයෙන් වෙරළට ගසාගෙන ආපු ප්‍රමාණය 40ක් පමණ වන්නට ඇති කියලා.
The incident has not just affected the marine ecosystem but has severely impacted the livelihood of thousands of Sri Lankan fishermen. Fishing activity in an 80-kilometer-long stretch has been banned, fearing contamination due to toxins and floating pellets in water. About 7,700 fishing families lost income as a result of this shutdown. Two fishermen have filed a petition with Sri Lanka's Supreme Court to ask for compensation for all of the fishing communities. They have demanded $2,500 per family under Sri Lanka's fundamental rights law. However, they have no timeline as to when they will get compensation, if they get any at all, and when they will be able to resume their fishing activities.
And now in our section of Asia this week, the stories from across the continent that made news this week.
The New York Times has reported that 4 Saudis who participated in the 2018 killing of the Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi received paramilitary training in the United States the previous year under a contract approved by the State Department. It says the State Department in 2017 issued a paramilitary training contract to the private equity firm Cerberus. Last year, while being vetted by the Trump White House for a senior Pentagon job, Cerberus senior executive Louis Bremer confirmed in writing that his company trained 4 members of the Khashoggi kill team. The Times reported Bremer's admission never made it to Congress because his nomination was withdrawn. Khashoggi was an opinion columnist for the Washington Post. He was killed and dismembered by Saudi operatives linked to the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Khalifa bin Abdulaziz Al Thani has said that his country will only allow people fully vaccinated against COVID-19 to attend next year's World Cup and is in talks to secure 1 million doses in case global immunization efforts lag. The Gulf Arab state will host the 4-week tournament in November 2022, and the president of global soccer body FIFA has said the matches would be held in full stadiums. It was not immediately clear how those vaccines would be offered. Most coronavirus vaccines require 2 doses administered weeks apart. Qatari officials had earlier said they hope to hold a coronavirus-free tournament and plan to make vaccinations available to attendees not already immunized. Qatar is inoculating its citizens and residents with Pfizer, BioNTech and Moderna vaccines. It has administered at least 2.8 million doses, enough to vaccinate about 50.8% of its population. Theme park Gundam Factory Yokohama, featuring Japan's leading robot animation character Gundam, was opened last December near Yamashita Park in Japan's second most popular city, Yokohama. The 18-meter-tall Gundam move attracts the most number of visitors. Gundam, now a Japanese animation robot hero, is known not only in Japan but also around the world through plastic model and anime screening. The name of this Gundam is Gundam RX-78F00. It is assumed that Gundam was found in Yokohama city in pieces such as hand and feet and was repaired to move again. On observation deck, special photo of the beautiful scenery of Yokohama city and Gundam are very unique.
非常に大きいんですけれども、小さい部分、ディテールが非常に緻密に作られてますんで、そういった部分もお楽しみいただけるんじゃないかなと思ってます。世界初の動く RX-78 ガンダムをですね、ぜひ皆さんにまずは見ていただきたいと思ってます。でその上でやはりガンダムというのは、世界の人々に勇気を与えるような存在であってほしいなと、以前から思っておりますので、ぜひですね、コロナ禍ではございますが、日本に来れる、ようになりましたら、ぜひ日本に来ていただいて、世界初のこのガンダムに見て触れていただきたいと思っております。
During sunset, the view of the port in Yokohama changes beautifully. The moving Gundam offers special view at night. It's fantastic sight that comes to mind with the backdrop of illuminated Gundam, the sea and the night view of Yokohama. Enjoying hot sand bath is a unique experience in Japan. Ibusuki city in Kagoshima prefecture is ideal for such an experience, as many volcanic landforms are found here.
温泉の熱を使って砂を温めて、その温めた砂を体にかける。だから砂のお風呂、あったかい砂のお風呂。お願いします。一応言われているのが、砂蒸し自体はだいたい400年以上前からやってたんじゃないかなとは言われてます。で、昔から指宿自体が温泉がすごく多くて有名だったので、西郷隆盛とかそういう昔の島津藩の人たちがここに宿を借りて温泉で疲れを癒してたんじゃないかなという話はあります。
There are a number of clocks lined up in the sand bath hall to remind visitors that they should not stay in the sand for more than 10 minutes so as to get the best benefits of the bath and avoid dehydration. To take a sand bath, visitors can borrow a yukata, get into a sand pit and let the attendant heap sand over them. The heated sand warms the whole body and its weight also helps in improving blood circulation.
Moving on. The Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar are struck by the double whammy of COVID lockdown and the military coup in Myanmar. the country they called their home. While their squalid shelters have been squeezed further by the restrictions imposed in the wake of the fresh infection wave, their dream of returning back has received a fresh hit with military junta taking over the country's reins.
The Rohingya misery in the camps of Cox's Bazar is only worsening by the day. As if the homelessness and poverty were not enough, the pandemic spread since last year seems to have blocked even the little chances of their repatriation. The refugee camps are under lockdown to mitigate the spread of coronavirus. However, the refugees in the world's largest settlement feel that the pandemic is diminishing international concern over their situation. A military takeover in Myanmar, they say, has only added to their miseries, and they have left with nothing to look forward to in life. Jamaleda, a refugee, says she couldn't even observe the Refugee Day in solidarity with her fellow refugees as the situation has only grown grimmer.
अयोध्या हाइलाइट जुनर 20 तारीख को दिन आरा पूरा दुनिया में जे दूं रिफ्यूजी हकला से इनर उग दिन आरा फालंग तो साय ते हन कोविड-19 मर हारो ने आरा दिनी बा फालंग गोरी न भारी ते आरा पूरा दुनिया तो आरा बिसर kan साय दो हंदिला आरा देश आना मजा आरा फिर जे बोला बोली होय रे आरा से दूर गोरी भारी ए दूर आरा सस्ता गोरी और साय रन रे आरा ला सस्ता गोरी बा बोली आशा गोरी अस्सलाम वालेकुम.
This year on World Refugee Day, UNHCR, the United Nations body for refugees, in its annual report said the number of refugees was growing across the world. The total number of refugees across the world was 82.4 million at the end of 2020, and over 1 million were Rohingya only. The political situation in Myanmar was also not helping, and now the Burmese were as unhappy as the Rohingyas due to the military takeover in February, they said. Bangladesh is keen to see the Rohingyas go back to Myanmar, but there has been little sign of progress in talks with Myanmar's military junta. Some Rohingya even say that they have endured so much that life seems graveyard to them.
Burma maze war refugee de hodiba no sintam kyala ara nije refugee no boni datalla to hon jeta Bangladesh ashi ara refugee boni hisabe ara life on lazargo dian ara ekkan hosto hare bujaitam hare zahar kortam ara zindagi de pura giyo ara fuji endo zindagi आरा जिंदगी माडारी गयो दी आनरा आरा नसार आरा फुजियाइंदो जिंदगी ला बोली आरा बेसी चिंता करी आत तो दुआ माया फुआसे एडा आयरोग मरुतोई आर माया फुआ इदिया 4 বছর স্কুলত দিনা ভারি বিশা জুয়াছিল তো এড়িয়ে স্কুলত দিনা ভারি হলে আর ফাইন্দ জিন্দগি কেন বো আরে দুন মানুষ আছে দে রোহিঙ্গার ইনর ফাইন্দ জিন্দগি কেন বো হয়.
While Rohingya call Myanmar their home, they have been widely referred to as Bengali by Myanmar authorities, implying they are outsiders from Bangladesh. Nearly 1 million of them were forced to flee the country after a militant attack on security posts prompted a severe response from the government in 2017.
Several repatriation efforts were made in the past from both sides, but none could materialize owing to one reason or the other. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.